This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Nation, welcome to another great episode of the Wrestling War Zone, a Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective. I'm JT, alongside my partner, as always, Mr. Chad Campbell. Chad, how are you?
I've been a pretty tough week since we last talked, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, you doing okay?
I'm doing pretty good.
Right. I'm in the midst of my travels, so I got that going on.
I may need you to save me from a hobby that I've not participated in 20 years, but today went down a pretty deep rabbit hole.
Ooh, stamp collection?
Doing research on. It's close to stamp collection, actually. Baseball cards.
Oh, look at you.
Oh, I don't know. Well, on the Braves blog, as I mentioned, I'm really into baseball. I don't know what happened. We talked about
you're old and you're white.
Joined the country club. I'm into baseball.
Before you know, you're gonna be sitting on your porch, sitting on your porch with a glass of Country Time lemonade, and listening to the fucking Braves game.
Can't Snapchat. So yeah, the macaroni dinner is next week. Please buy tickets. God.
Oh boy!
But no, so on the Braves blog I go to, Talking Chop, one of the main contributors, he's getting back into the hobby, and with a lot of the young upstart Braves stars, I thought it kind of be interesting. So I was just looking at kind of the prospects now that I know the farm system, and was looking at some of the cards of the guys that I think will end up being major leaguers, but kind of aren't in the top 100 right now.
Right.
And you can get autographed cards from them for like $2 to $3, which then made me go down an even deeper rabbit hole where I started YouTubing videos today.
Yeah. The pack breaking or whatever?
Yeah, the pack breaks, which was a world I was not familiar with, but was pretty interesting. Where, you basically pick a team or pick players and stuff and are kind of just hoping for these rares. But I don't know. It seemed interesting. I don't think I'm a sucker for any type of collection. So I kind of get these bugs for these offshoot stuff, like Disney pins or board games or something. It's usually a quick flourish of I'm all in on something and then out. But maybe when Caden's older, I don't know what year, how old he would need to be before he'd start respecting it. Because I think I got some baseball cards early on when I was like 5 or 6. I got like a whole set of tops, I know, one year. But I would say it was probably actually when they went on strike, probably in 94, that I started building up my collection with mostly Greg Maddux and King Gifford Jr.'s. Those were the 2 cards I saw after.
I have a huge, when I was cleaning out my basement, it took stuff from my parents. I got a huge bin full of all my old cards from growing up.
Yeah.
But it's funny because obviously one of my best friends and one of my other best friends, the Cowboy, is very similar to you as far as obsession. When you both get into something, the two of you get like super into stuff obsessively. And it's funny because he is very into card collecting right now as well.
Oh boy!
So you should hit him up. He has a friend that does the pack breaking like big time. Like people stake him to do it, like one of his buddies. He goes to all the shows and everything. So, and I thought Roger was going to one of them or went to one. I forget the details, but you should hit him up because he is really into it now as well. So.
Yeah, I looked it up, and there's a card shop. There still is a card shop about 30 minutes from my house, and it's actually the local card shop that Braves blogger goes to. So, I mean, I think I'm going to hit that up when I'm, in the weekend when I'm in Douglasville. So we'll see. I mean, I did have to restrain myself from joining a random, pack break this afternoon where I think it was like $21, and it was a random team. You didn't pick your team, so you didn't know who you'd get. And I was kind of telling to myself, with my luck, I'd probably get, the Marlins or somebody like that I have no interest in, or has a terrible farm system, and just with my luck, I wouldn't be getting the Braves or the Angels or kind of those sought after Yankees, those hot commodity cards with a lot of young players, and you may get some valuable autograph cards. Seems like the autograph cards are a big thing. But one website I looked at, they actually had I guess they're going to have a Topps WWE break pack where you get randomized a couple of wrestlers.
That's
and
interesting.
any cards that show up, and that one I looked at, it was like $6.50. So I may legit try to get in on that.
Yeah,
see what I get.
You should live audio it for a pod.
Yeah, if I do that, I mean, because you're kind of guaranteed some sort of autograph from that. So I mean, pretty much I would think almost any autograph you'd get from a WWE star would be worth $6.
Yeah.
And especially if you got somebody like The Undertaker or somebody like that, John Cena. So, you never know.
Jack Doan.
I'll probably get Callisto or something.
Callisto, as John D'Amato would say. But no, it's interesting. You should talk to the Cowboy because he could definitely probably talk.
I had to hit him up because, like I said, it was just a random blog post I read during lunch today. And then that completely transfixed my evening, where I had an evening to myself tonight. And because Jennifer was gone with the kids, and I watched videos during the second half of work today, and came home and was going to watch all this wrestling, and ended up watching break pack videos and stuff. It was quite the wild ride.
All right, well, there you go. Speaking of wild rides, Chad, 95.
I'll keep you updated.
Yes, please do. Please do. You don't have to keep me updated all the time, just here and there. But speaking of wild rides, 1995 has been a wild ride for us, and we are almost done, Chad. We got 2 more shows to finish 95.
No more WWF.
No, we're done with WWF for the year. It's like they're like Clark Griswold. Yeah, I'm off for the rest of the year at WWF, so we're done with them. We're done with them for the rest of 95. We got 2 more WCW shows, one tonight, and then our next one, and then we can move into 96. It's a big milestone for us to get through this year, so it's good.
Yeah. So WWF, seriously, so their last taping was 12/18, and then they taped 4 episodes, right?
We get some stale shit in January, and those episodes are very padded, as you'll see. They actually re-air a couple of in your house matches as part of Raw. So,
oh boy, God, I was hoping. Well, as we talked about last week, I think the retaliation was coming, and they do that with the stuff they could film.
Yep.
That wasn't with the shows, but I think the telltale sign will be the night after the Rumble.
Yeah. Where business does pick up too. At that time. But yeah, so we're done with them. We got 2 more WCWs, which is nice. Starrcade will close the year for us. But they do run a Nitro here on Christmas night. So Raw takes the night off. They're not going to fuck with Christmas night, but Nitro does a live show, which is kind of ballsy, but kind of cool that they went ahead and did this.
Live in quotation marks.
Oh, was it taped? Why did I think it was live?
Yes. Well, so it's taped in Augusta. They taped it the same night as last week.
The magic is ruined.
Bischoff, they usually have the graphic that says live. They don't have that here, and Bischoff does kind of a savvy, really kind of politician type speak, where he says we are live in front of this audience,
Oh,
or,
yeah,
you know,
that's
and
cool.
something like that, where like, of course you are, but, you know, it's like, we have a live audience here for this Nitro. He doesn't say like, we are live on television now. So he kind of puts in a little caveat, but yeah, so kind of some slick maneuvering there.
I feel stupid. I think even last week you let me sit out there and say it was a live show, but no, it's kind of cool anyway. But I really thought they were live on Christmas night, which would have been pretty neat.
Well, and I mean, they decorate the set a little bit.
Yeah, no, they do a good job. Yeah, they made it believable. It was shrewd by them because they probably knew WWF was not running. They probably looked ahead maybe and saw and said, "Fuck it, we're going to run a show." So I thought that was another cool move. They get an unopposed night here. So
Yeah, unopposed night. All to themselves. Pepe predictably is dressed as Santa.
Mm-hmm.
So no surprise there. And they don't do much of an intro. I mean, last week we had the big intro with Medusa and the Fridge and everybody else, Pittman rushing the announce booth. This week we just kind of go pretty much straight into the first match after they welcome us to the show.
And Bischoff, by the way, has a ridiculous Christmas sweater on and his giant fucking glasses.
They are dressed for the occasion.
Yeah.
Our first match is Lex Luger. He's kind of running through the American males gauntlet, as last week he faced Marcus Bagwell.
Mm-hmm.
This week he gets Scotty Riggs. Luger gets the early advantage with his power moves. The announcers are setting up Starrcade well. I kind of talk about Luger's chances to win and win the championship as well after the triangle match. Riggs takes over, starts working on an arm bar. I thought Riggs actually got more offense on Luger than Bagwell, which I was a little surprised about.
Yeah.
I would have expected that to be the other way around.
Well, they had more time to kill, so.
That's true. This did get more time.
Yeah.
Riggs misses a drop kick, and now Luger's able to take over. Luger front suplexes Riggs onto the ropes and then sends him into the guardrail. Bobby keeps talking about Flair becoming the champ for the 12th time. So they're really, again, as we talked last week, they're pushing the triangle match and the title match from all facets.
Yes.
They run down almost every scenario possible with that type of match. Riggs gets his boot up on the charge and gets a kind of good hold spot with an inside cradle for 2. But then he misses a missile drop kick. Luger hits his power slam and the torture rack to gain the victory. I actually thought this was a pretty fun match, all things considered. I went 2 1/4 and found it to be perfectly acceptable.
I went 2.5. It was fun.
Yeah.
Riggs gets enough offense to keep it, back and forth versus just kind of a squash. His flurry was good. Luger, I mentioned it last week. I like his selling when he's kind of off kilter, discombobulated. He's always really good at that. Bobby talks a lot about what Luger's done to Savage to set him up for Starrcade and to be in bad shape, the damage he's done to his arm. He also thinks at the end of this thing will end up on Luger's side, not Hogan and Savage, so he's pushing that agenda as well. Again, Riggs wouldn't stay down. He gets more flurries in as he's getting beaten down. And he gives a really nice showing here. Like you said, more time, so he gets a little bit more than Bagwell. The crowd was into Luger. He gets a big pop for the rack, and he's been really good. I mean, we mentioned Giant. We talked a lot about him last week, kind of being an MVP. I put Luger in that boat as well. He's been really solid since he's arrived.
Sure. Yeah.
At least maybe since, I don't know, maybe since Havoc. Whatever. His first month or so was a little shaky as he got going, but since Havoc, he's been really good.
And I think, obviously I've beaten the drum on Luger on many podcasts, but opinions are opinions, but I did do my due diligence and listen to some other podcasts of reviews of this show. And it just seems constantly they drag down Luger and talk about him kind of fumbling around. And I just don't see it. I don't think he looks any worse than Razor last week. Is he the best worker in the world? No, but and I think that's one of those things where he probably is equal to Razor. I don't know at this point in time. I'd probably give Luger maybe the slight edge. Razor though probably still has a little bit better crowd reaction. But it's one of those things where it's perception. Where one, I think Razor is held in a lot higher esteem, so it seems like I need to right a wrong by talking about Luger being pretty good, in my opinion. So,
No, I agree. I don't see the fumbling. I think he's been good in the story, character-wise, and he's been fine in the ring.
Right.
We've talked about his issues not really meshing with Savage, but beyond that, he's been perfectly fine. He's doing everything that they need him to do, and you could tell he's reinvigorated by the switch from WWF to here.
Yeah, definitely. So Gene, as we talked about last week, he was a little ornery on this night. He has a weird line where he says he hopes Bobby gets a Christmas goose. Do you know? Now, as I said, I'm becoming an old man, but I didn't even get this reference.
Well, a Christmas goose was kind of like an infamous, like, you'd eat goose on Christmas, right? Wasn't that like a thing? But I didn't know if he meant like someone grabbing
eating
his ass.
Goose.
Yeah, wasn't a Christmas goose? That's like a thing.
I don't know. I've never ate goose on Christmas.
I mean, me neither, but I thought it was like an old timey thing.
Okay, well.
Goose has a distinct flavor, which makes it a favorite European Christmas dish. So there you go.
Okay, all right. Well, there we go. So he has an interview with Sting. And he asks Sting what's up with him and Luger. Sting says, you know what? Enough's enough. You ask me this all the damn time. And he's tired of being asked that question. Sting is doing everything in his power to straighten Luger out. And he also says he wants one more chance to hook on the Scorpion Deathlock on Flair. Then he kind of shifts and starts talking about New Japan, which was kind of an afterthought, as we talked about. So
yeah, just as USA is where the best are, basically.
Yeah, I mean, so I watched these shows back to back, and them being taped in the same arena. I mean, I thought this was about on par with his promo last week.
Yeah, and
with a week off, it would probably play better, than watching them back to back on the network. Yeah. So them being in that close proximity, it did feel like, oh, this is the same stuff he said, 10 minutes ago. But I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
They're still hyping Starrcade well.
Agreed.
Then we get the weird thing where so Sting's out for an interview. They kind of go to break, and Sting just sort of goes to the back, and then he immediately comes right back out for his match, which is versus Big Bubba.
God, I love Big Bubba's music.
No. It's pretty good. So Bubba starts off with a roundhouse kick, which looked pretty impressive.
By the way, this is a big reigniting of a feud from last year. Starrcade 94 rematch.
That's true.
Super Brawl.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, lighting the fire on that. Sting better get his mind on Big Bubba, or he's going to put an old-fashioned butt whipping on him, is what Mongo lets us know. Bobby says that Hideo Nomo, so Bobby has this long story. He says he ran into Tommy Lasorda
at the airport.
At the airport, of course. And instead of Tommy yelling Eddie, Eddie at him, he lets him know that Hideo Nomo is going to be at Starrcade.
He's very confident in New Japan.
Right. Yes, very confident in New Japan, which drove me nuts because, as you'll remember, this is 95. Hideo Nomo won the Rookie of the Year over Chipper Jones, which was a travesty on all accounts. But there we go. Sting slams Bubba face first onto the outside, which looked pretty nasty. And then we kind of get the first mention from the announcers on no Hogan. So we learn he's been suspended.
For the rest of the year.
Yeah, for the rest of the year. They're not sure how long after that, but at least for the rest of the year, he's gone. So that's kind of the reason he's written out of Starrcade, even though he didn't have a match. And I was going to ask you, do you think they should have done that suspension angle earlier? Because, I mean, now it at least makes sense he's not at Starrcade, but it's like, we're 2 days before the show. Like,
I think they wanted to probably milk as many weeks of TV as they could out of him. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm guessing that missing the pay-per-view probably had to do with his contract, not, only having so many dates, and maybe they're thinking, why do it earlier and when we could be having them on TV.
I actually still think we'll see when I watch Starrcade, but I kind of think they should have done Hogan Savage at Starrcade. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been the play. And then you could have done the triangle match for the number one's contender.
Right.
Even done it the next night or January 1st Nitro will be the winner of the triangle match versus the winner of that one.
Yeah, or you get the Flash coming, you could do it there.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but that's kind of where I'm leaning right now.
Yeah, but I do like that they're paying off because they kept talking about the fucking probation and the attacks and everything else. So at least they're paying it off a bit.
Yes, it pays it off. It's not, and it makes sense. I mean, he really went nuts, so was shoving officials and stuff. So,
and Bobby says he should be banned, which is funny.
So Bubba has the advantage with a boot and locks on a headlock. Good job by Eric on commentary talking about Bubba using his weight advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But then we kind of had a little bit of an awkward finish, I thought, where Sting goes to the top rope. Bubba tries to get a suplex off the top rope, and Sting kind of rolled through for the pin. I mean, it's kind of cool sounding in concept, but the execution was a little weird. And overall, I mean, I thought this match was okay, but, you know, if you told me the first two matches were Sting versus Bubba and Luger versus Riggs, I would have picked Sting versus Bubba as the better match. Mm-hmm. And I thought Luger versus Riggs was better. So I only went 1.5 stars here.
I went 2. I thought it was fine. Bubba, again, kind of like last week with the Bagwell match. He gets some shine, and Sting just keeps rolling on. I mean, that's about it. I didn't have much more than that. We kind of called out all the pieces, the Bobby stuff, and more hype for Starrcade more than anything, which I think they're doing a nice job through the commentary of really pushing Starrcade. So it's a unique show because they really only have the best of 7 and then the triangle match and the title match. So if you kind of park the best of 7, they've really been able to focus everything on those 2 matches, whereas you're not really building a full card because they're not really selling the individual matches of the best of 7. They're just kind of selling it as a concept. So it's kind of interesting how they can go about promoting that show here.
Yeah. And that's kind of a Starrcade fixture. Yeah. As you had the Iron Man tournament and the Lethal Lottery. Like, they really love bundling up stuff for Starrcade and selling it as that. We'll get a Luger interview. He kind of gives his spiel. But and he's with Jimmy Hart. And out comes Sergeant Craig Pittman. Sergeant Craig Pittman wants Jimmy to be his manager, taking Bobby's advice from the week before. And Jimmy basically shames him here. So he kind of laughs him off, and then he tells him to take off his shirt and laughs at him. Pittman basically makes him look like a geek and denies being his manager. So Pittman's not looking great so far in this
was
angle.
A goof. Like, why are they trying to body shame him with Luger? Kind of uncalled for.
Right.
And then he says, here, take a quarter and call a manager that needs a few good men.
There we go. I should mention Gene has a Santa hat on.
Yes.
So that's a nice touch. And they put poinsettias in the C of the WCW, the big metal WCWs in the entranceway. So really festive here.
Very.
Then our third match was Dean Malenko versus Mr. JL. So this is an interesting match on paper.
Yeah.
Very, very quick start, I thought, with Dean showing off his wrestling. I thought this was a great kind of opening 30 seconds of the match. Really good-looking Saito suplex. JL gains the advantage and hits a tope from the apron to the floor. Fought the pace again, was relentless. Suplex back inside by Mr. JL. Eric fires off of where the big boys play off of that. And then, so throughout the match, he says a lot of where the big boys play tonight. Yeah. He always adds in, and according to Medusa last week, it's also where the big girls play now. So he always loves doing that.
Right. Little jabs.
Yeah. So Mongo says that he loved what she did to the bell last week, so he's still off that high. JL goes for the monkey flip, but Dean hangs onto the ropes. JL bridges out into a power bomb that looked pretty nasty.
Yeah, that was a nice one. Yeah.
And then Malenko does a flipping power bomb where he goes over the top rope. Like I don't even know what you describe it, but so Dean puts him up in powerbomb position, but instead of going back first,
it's like a hot shot kind of.
Yeah, he kind of hot shots JL neck first on the top rope. It looks cool. JL then is coming right back though, scales the top, and Dean catches him for the gut buster from the top. Eric calls it the side breaker, which I don't think that's a thing.
No.
And then Malenko gets the Malenko leg lock instead of the cloverleaf tonight for the win. Eric says Dean's the man of 1,000 holes, and we saw 842 of them in this match. So I thought this was a really fun sprint. I went 2.5, and actually Mr. JL broke his arm during this match. So he He is sadly out of commission for a while. That may be why they did the finish with this Malenko leg lock.
I think so. He probably didn't want to turn him over.
The cloverleaf, to turn him over. So good thinking on his feet by Dean, if that's the case. I mean, you got to hats off to him on that, protecting JL. And good for JL gutting it out. I mean, I thought this was a really fun sprint. I mean, probably another couple of minutes, and I would say this was trending towards hidden gem territory.
For sure. So I went 2 3/4 on this.
Yeah.
I really dug it. And yeah, you can see he breaks his arm during the gut buster. I think he lands on it. Because Mongo even says it. He goes, he thinks JL broke his arm. And JL's kind of holding it gingerly. And then Malenko goes right to the leg lock for the win. But yeah, it's super fun. What a sprint. All sorts of offense on display. A big finisher. Dean loves doing the big super gut buster. It becomes one of his kind of go-tos here for a while. And this was a lot of fun for a guy that's not going to be on Starrcade. It's cool if they let him have a showcase here just to kind of fill time on the Christmas show. So, no, cool match. Something Raw couldn't really dream of throwing out there on a whim.
No, I mean, they might could have, but I mean, who knows?
Not with like mid-card guys that don't mean anything. I mean, yeah, they could throw Brett and whoever else out there.
Kid, but, I mean, yeah. Kid's probably
Kid Hakushi may be their best chance.
Yeah, best hope.
Yeah.
Buddy Rydell on 1, 2, 3.
Maybe Johnny Mathis.
During the replay, Bobby says there's more leg right there than at a pantyhose convention.
Of course.
The dad jokes there. Nitro, instead of the regular fire graphics, they have kind of a Christmas stocking graphic. And then we get an interview with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Now, this was kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
So Flair's doing his interview. Jimmy Hart comes out early in the promo. Flair tells Jimmy to move it. And then Jimmy apologizes on the behalf of Kevin Sullivan for the week before. He says, that Kevin Sullivan has a short fuse, along with Pillman. But then he tells him that Flair saved his life a couple of weeks ago, which I'd forgotten about that, but I guess Jimmy did not. And Jimmy says he always pays back his debt, and he wants to be at ringside tonight. And Flair ends up taking him up on it. So I think this is the only time Jimmy Hart would manage Ric Flair that I can recall.
I mean, going forward, he may. I mean, they're tied together a bit with the Dungeon and the Horsemen, so we may see it again here.
It just felt like a really odd pairing of
right.
kind of these two iconic figures of the 80s and 90s kind of coming together. But I enjoyed that. Then I think we're straight for our main event. So this was a really long main event. I mean, I guess it's pretty smart to do longest matches on the second half of the taping.
For sure.
To not burn out the crowd. And you got to think, so the main event is Savage versus Flair, and both of those guys had 2 pretty long matches in the first match. So, I mean, they really pulled some heavy double duty here. But I would think for Savage, he's probably got about 26 minutes of total ring time between the 2 matches.
And he's going to go twice again in a week. So,
yeah, so good job by him. So as I said, Jimmy comes out with Flair. Eric calls Jimmy a maggot. It's the holiday season. Bobby says Jimmy gave Flair an offer he couldn't refuse. And then Macho's changed his outfit from the week before. He's got a green and black theme this week.
I think it looked great, too, coming out of his champ.
I've liked these Macho outfits he's been putting together lately. He's looking pretty cool. And Bobby says Savage's dad reminds him of a stray mutt, which was like a very unnecessary
it felt very uncalled
shot at Atlanta Papa, or Angelo Papa. And so here we go, the big main event for the world title, classic feud, and good way to spend Christmas night if you were settling in.
Yep.
Savage starts out going with the leg. Flair, I thought, was selling it really well, and he uses dirty tactics throughout this match to gain the advantage. A lot of rakes to the eyes. The action spills to the outside as we go to our first break. Now, on the network, we get the Starrcade promo, which, of course, is a very big emphasis on the World Cup. Mm-hmm. So that may go into what you were saying, where like the B&C shows were more World Cup focused.
Yeah, I think they were.
Then Nitro was the triangle focus. But there we go with our final kind of hype for it. They're still on the outside when we come back from break as Flair's sending Macho into the railing and going after Macho's injured arm. Savage goes for the chair, but the fan wasn't wanting to give it up. This kid is not wanting to relinquish this chair at all. And then Flair punishes Savage.
And Savage could barely hold it up anyway because of his arm.
Yeah. Jimmy, I thought on the megaphone for Flair was just kind of weird. At one point, I could hear him say, "Yeah, come on, Nature Boy," and it just sounded strange. Flair gets an elbow, and Jimmy chokes Savage behind the ref's back. Savage has a nice clothesline and a 2 count, but Flair's then back on top immediately after that. I like that Savage is kind of stalking Flair in the corner, and again, he gets the advantage by using a cheap shot. He gets a low blow this time. He pounds away as we go to another break. I did think, I thought the crowd was fine, but I will kind of get on our Augusta brethren that I thought they got a little burned out here.
Mm-hmm.
Just slightly. I didn't think the temperament of this match was quite as high as the Giant Savage match the week before, which is kind of understandable, but I was a little bummed because I thought the work within this match was really good as well. As Savage makes a comeback, as Eric says, they are the top-rated wrestling program. So he was excited to do that, which, I guess if he called this live, he wouldn't have known that. So
true. He was guessing.
Right.
Assumed, I guess.
Yeah. Or was just kind of full of shits, but, good for him.
Well, I guess he could have edited that in.
Possibly.
They could have put that in the commentary.
So Flair's on the outside. Savage goes for the double axe handle. Flair punches him right in the stomach. And now Flair starts working over the leg. Locks in the figure 4. Eric says they're running long, but they don't care. Screw it, it's Christmas. Flair gets caught on the top rope, and now Macho makes his comeback in earnest. But again, Flair cut him off with a right to the eye. So, they really played that theme out, and it worked well. It's an easy theme to work out, but one that's executed really well. And then Mongo, another line, talking about Medusa, says, "I love what she did to that title belt from that lesser league, but maybe she should have thrown it in the litter box." So just really going in on the WWF here. Flair goes for the pile driver, gets backdropped. Savage hits a double axe handle. Jimmy then grabs Savage's leg, and Savage punches him. Savage pounds away, but Luger comes rushing in for the DQ. Luger goes after Savage big time. Mongo accurately brings up that, that really Luger interfering didn't really do Flair any favors because it cost him the match. Sting comes in, but Flair cuts him off. And it's kind of ambiguous who Sting was going to go after, whether Macho or Luger. So Stinger splash to Flair and the press slam sends Flair on the outside, and Macho gets rid of Luger, sends him to the outside, and then of course we get our Sting and Macho back to back. They turn around and kind of start shoving each other as the show goes off the air. So I thought this was a really good main event. It went really long. These two have good chemistry with each other, and this is probably one of their lesser matches. I'm actually looking forward to their '96 series to see how that holds up. But this was a
potential to fight again next week too.
Right, true. But this was a good kickstart, I think, to whatever was going to be going forward, and I ended up going 3 1/4 here. Really, really strong main event.
Yeah, I went 3 1/4 as well. Savage's selling is amazing throughout this whole match. Really, really on point. The desperation comebacks as always are great, and Flair was just in control. It was a kind of a paint by numbers match for the two of them, but those matches are higher than most people's classics. Flair kind of did his thing, Savage did his thing, and just meshes so well. The Luger and Jimmy stuff is interesting. You wonder with Jimmy out there just to prevent Flair from winning the title, did they really want Flair to win the title? What was his actual meaning to be out there? And Luger ends up basically costing Flair indirectly. The crowd, you mentioned it, I thought they kind of sucked in this match, and I thought this match would have popped even more if they were hotter. I think maybe would have even pushed it into that hidden gem level for us. I think it's a little short, maybe borderline, but it's close. Well, we had said for TV that 3 1/4.
Yeah, I mean, we both went 3 1/4, so I think we're going to classify this as a hidden gem.
Put it down.
I mean, I don't think you hear this match talked about, but it's a good long form main event, and I think it's kind of a cool match that bridges the gap between old school fans enjoying the kind of methodical work and still enough action to keep your fans, younger fans that were coming on board, entertained as well.
Yep.
And it didn't really feel like that dated of a match watching it, 24 years later either. So, good match. I mean, just a rock solid good match from 2 all-time greats. So, kind of what you'd expect, but, a match you don't really know about.
Again, just a match that gets rolled out here on Nitro.
Right.
On a tape show. And it's not like it was a special thing. I mean, they could run the show out there every night. So,
yeah. I mean, they just had main evented the Great American Bash the previous June. So
I mean, and they topped Savage Giant from last week, which is great too. So
so good stuff. And that's it. I mean, this is one of the few Nitros that ends with the lasting camera shot actually in the ring. Like, they don't wrap up at all with the announcers. And they did run over a little bit, as it was another 52-minute episode on the network. So, I mean, kind of a breezy show for us to review, but that's kind of what happens when a third of the show is a long-form match.
Yeah. All right, let's do our awards.
So match of the night, obviously, is Savage versus Flair.
Yep.
What did you have for your segment of the night?
The post-match of Savage Flair.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was good as kind of your final sell job for Starrcade.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Starrcade overall, just to see how it is. It's a show I have a pretty decently positive opinion on. Like if I had to guess right now, I'd probably put it at like a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if that holds up.
Okay.
MVP.
Savage.
I went with Savage as well. I thought he created a lot of sympathy and timed his comebacks really well. His kind of hope spots, the way he'd punch out when Flair was dominating. Just good stuff. Commentary, what did you have for that?
Heenan, I hope you get a Christmas goose from Gene. And you had 9 months and you named your kid Hank from Bobby. So.
Yeah, that's true. That was a line. I think that was Bischoff saying that Hank Williams Jr. may show up at Starrcade.
That's
in Nashville. Right. So I think that was that. Shots fired is basically still Medusa. Medusa backlash.
Well, no, I had a couple other Bischoff lines.
Okay.
He said the 2 major promotions in the world will be competing in the World Cup. So I thought that was a pretty good dig. And then he said talent's coming to WCW and leaving the WWF in droves, he said at one point. So.
Oh, there we go. I missed both of those.
Yeah,
but
2 big ones.
Those
the World Cup one was good. That was a shrewd one.
Yeah, the World Cup one's kind of... Bischoff is getting pretty savvy. I mean, we'll see next week, because I know next week is... I've always remembered it as more obtuse, him talking about the Raw Bowl, where it feels more shoehorned in and grating, whereas... between that, kind of dropping that line and the stuff about being live for the live crowd.
There are a ton of shots fired on that next Nitro, just beyond just the Raw Bowl. There's I have like 6 or 7 listed. So. Okay,
and I've always thought, because I'm pretty familiar with that Nitro because it's at the Omni.
Yep.
That I've always thought, when rewatching it, that it's not very graceful the way he kind of weaves it in. So he's been pretty good so far. The rating was a 2.5, so it actually is weird that, I mean, on one hand it's not because it's Christmas night, but, I mean, it's unopposed, too, and it dropped a little bit.
I mean, that's a pretty good rating for Christmas night.
Yeah, nothing major. I mean, that's the same rating they got on... they've been 2.6, 2.6. They got a 2.5 on the 11/27/95 Nitro, so it's in the same range that they've been getting, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And what was your overall grade?
6.5. So I had it on par with 2 weeks ago and a notch ahead of last week's, and that's because of Savage Flair.
Yeah, we're flip-flopping. Added just
You
a
came back
notch
down.
below. Yeah, I went a notch below last week. 6 out of 10.
All right, there you go.
Another good episode. I mean, though, I'd say with all these episodes, like right now, Nitro is consistently good.
Yeah, very much
a good thing. Like, you know, I don't think we've gotten still in the show's run a kind of great, iconic episode yet. I mean, we've had some very, very good ones, but not a, you know, top to bottom. Oh, this was a great Nitro.
No, they haven't had too many below 6 for us. I mean, a few, but
yeah, and very few like that I'd call below average, which I think is very important for a new show starting out.
I mean, the lowest I have them is one episode at 4.5, and that's it. Like nothing else below.
Yeah, I would
5.5,
think
really.
I'd have probably like a 4. I don't think they've dipped into the 3.5. So, yeah, looks like a 4. The 9/18/95 show, I had a 4 out of 10. So they've done pretty good. It's staying consistent.
Yep. All right, that'll do it. No combo awards, obviously, this week. So our next episode, Chad, will be back with Starrcade at 95, and that'll put a bow on the year. So we'll compare the pay-per-views and maybe share a few thoughts as well on the year that was before we hit 96. Be sure to check out all our feeds, PlayStation Wrestling, PlayStation Pop, tons of stuff going on there. We have, of course, the newest Place to Be podcast. We looked at the February 89 MSG House show, so that dropped earlier this week. Also, new main event was out last week as well, so be sure to peep that, breaking down Fastlane as we head toward WrestleMania. And we had a brand new Talking WCW coming up this week as well, so be sure to check that out. Plenty of stuff on the Pop feed, too. So everything you're looking for in your pop culture world, subscribe to both of our feeds. Be sure to vote every day on our candy tournament that's hot and heavy. It runs right through Easter Sunday, where the champion will be crowned. It happens on Facebook and Twitter. You can get your votes in on Facebook.com/PlayStation, our main hub. You can search for the Wrestling War Zone, Monday Night Wars podcast Facebook page as well. And be sure to leave your feedback for Starrcade 95, Bigelow34.proboards.com. There's a thread there for Wrestling Warzone feedback, and we will read it on air for Starrcade, so be sure to share that. Anything else you want to share, Chad?
I think I'm going to start pushing for Twix.
Twix? Okay.
Yeah, let's get behind Twix.
Okay, there you go. It's hot and heavy here. You heard it first. Chad Campbell's putting his votes behind Twix. So,
an obscure candy bar that I'm putting my beliefs behind Twix.
Elizabeth Warren of this Twix. All right.
I'm 1/16 Twix, by the way.
That does not surprise me. All right, we're out. Everyone, smell the napalm. That's Chad. I'm Vicky. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time. Yes, the most wonderful time. Oh, the most wonderful time.